Imagine a state law. One of its articles grants the ruler who ascends the throne the authority to kill his own brothers. The justification is a single concept, Nizam-e-Alem, meaning the order of the world. The man who had this article written was not a monster. He was one of the best educated minds of his time, interested in maps, mathematics, and Italian painters, and spoke multiple languages. And the same man conquered the world's most fortified city behind 1,000-year-old walls at the age of 21. This is the story of the second Mehmed, known as the Conqueror. And in this story, genius and composure are two halves of the same face. March 30th, 1432. A prince was born in the Ottoman palace in Edirne. His father was Mehmed II, who kept the state standing through great ordeals. Mehmed was not even the first candidate for the throne. The early deaths of his older brothers suddenly pushed this introverted and stubborn child to the forefront of the line of succession. From that moment on, his education turned into a state project. He learned discipline under strict teachers like Molla Gurani, finally of Alexander the Great, who conquered the world. In 1444, Mehmed II did something no one expected. He abdicated the throne. The tired Sultan withdrew to his corner and entrusted the vast empire to his 12-year-old son. A child sultan was an invitation for enemies. A crusader army marched to the border. Chaos grew in the capital. The Janissaries began to grumble. According to legend, 12-year-old Mehmed sent a message to his father to this effect: "If you are the Sultan, come and lead your army. If I am the Sultan, I order you to come and take command of the army." Murat came and crushed the Crusader army at Varna, but the return did not stop there. The crisis and Janissary pressure grew. The state officials called the former Sultan back to the throne. Mehmed was sent back to the province. As the 12-year-old made Sultan and then deposed, this humiliation became not a wound but a motor within him. During the years of exile, he waited and worked quietly. His mind was focused on a single target, the city that even his father couldn't capture. 1451. Mehmed II died, and Mehmed ascended the throne for the second time at the age of 19. The European courts breathed a sigh of relief. Envoys were reporting him as an inexperienced child. That inexperienced child first had the Rumeli fortress built on the European side of the Bosphorus. The fortress that rose within months cut off all aid coming to the city from the Black Sea. Then the cannons arrived. Master Makar Urban's giants capable of throwing half-ton stone cannonballs, the largest siege weapons the world had seen until that day. The siege began on the morning of April 6, 1453. Opposite were the 1,000-year-old Theodosian walls and the last emperor, Constantine XI, who refused to abandon his city. Weeks passed. Cannons created breaches in the walls, and the defenders rebuilt those breaches every night. The mouth of the Golden Horn was closed with a giant chain, and the Ottoman fleet could not enter. Mehmed's response went down in the history of warfare. The ships were transported overland on greased sleds from behind the hills, and one morning Byzantium saw Ottoman sails on the waters of the Golden Horn. On the 53rd day, the order for a general assault was given. On the evening of May 28th, the bells in the city fell silent. In the last service held in Hagia Sophia, Greeks and Latins set aside centuries of resentment and prayed under the same dome. After midnight, waves of attacks successively hit the walls. Towards dawn, when the Genoese commander Giustiniani, the backbone of the defense, was severely wounded and withdrew from the line, the resistance collapsed. On the morning of May 29th, 1453, Ottoman flags were waving on the walls. The last emperor disappeared in the chaos of the battle, and the 1,100-year-old Byzantium faded into history within a few hours. The 21-year-old Sultan entered the city in the afternoon. He turned towards Hagia Sophia and ordered the temple to be converted into a mosque. From that day on, his name was no longer just Mehmed. He was the Conqueror. A colder story was unfolding in the shadow of the conquest. In the early days of his second accession, his brother Ahmet, who was still in the cradle, was strangled in the palace. Succession struggles in the Ottoman Empire had spilled blood before. But what Mehmed did was different. He codified this bloodshed into written law, Kanunname Ali Osman. This text, which systematically codified the state's penal and organizational law for the first time, contained a clause. For the order of the world, it was deemed appropriate for the Sultan who ascended the throne to kill his brothers. The logic was cold but clear within itself. A struggle for the throne meant civil war, and during the Ottoman interregnum they had experienced firsthand how fraternal conflict could tear the state apart. In Mehmed's eyes, the death of a few princes was preferable to the death of tens of thousands. This clause survived for centuries thereafter. So much so that on the night of an accession, the palace would see the funeral of 19 princes. This is where Fatih's real dilemma lies. The same mind was both a vision that opened an era and an engineer who sacrificed family ties to state mathematics. Mehmed ruled for 30 years and did not see himself solely as a Turkish sultan. He adopted the title Kaiser-i-Rum, the Caesar of Rome, heir of the Caesars. He did not destroy the city he conquered, he revived it. He brought population to the emptied Istanbul from Anatolia and Rumelia. He made it heard. He made the city the new capital with bazaars, madrasas and complexes. He revived the Greek Orthodox Church and personally appointed Patriarch Gennadios. This was not a gesture, it was the wisdom of governing a multi-religious empire. In the year 1480, the Venetian painter Gentile Bellini came to Istanbul and painted the Sultan's portrait. That painting is now hanging in the National Gallery in London, and from within the arched frame, those measuring and evaluating eyes still gaze at us. 3rd of May, 1481. The Sultan set out at the head of his army for a great campaign whose objective he did not disclose. He died in his camp near Gebze. He was 49 years old. The suddenness of his death raised suspicions of poisoning, and this suspicion has been debated among historians to this day. The only certain thing is this. When the news reached Italy, joy bells rang in the churches, and the messenger running to Venice carried a single sentence. The great eagle is dead. One question remains. A genius who ended an era at 21, or a cold-blooded power engineer who would turn fratricide into a legal article? Perhaps what made him so great was that these two men lived in the same body. I leave the decision to you. Write what you think in the comments.